Hello guys, and welcome to this new episode, The Unexplainable. In the heart of an isolated forest in the Czech Republic stands a castle. It's certainly not one of the biggest or most beautiful in the area, but the story that characterizes it makes it one of the most famous in Europe. Obviously, if I've decided to talk about it, it's because that story is shrouded in mystery and a good dose of terror. Join me on this journey to Huska because it's really worth it. Before we start though, I want to sincerely thank Tati Loire, who suggested today's topic and made this episode possible. Tati, I dedicate this episode to you. With that said, we can begin. So here is the castle of Huska, a gateway to hell. That story is shrouded. The Huska castle was built in the 13th century by the order of Ottokar II of Bohemia, one of the most powerful rulers of his time. But from the beginning, its construction has raised questions and perplexities. Located in a remote and isolated position, far from any trade route or strategic point, it almost seems that its existence defies logic. Why build a castle in the middle of nowhere with no apparent function, like defending a border or protecting a settlement? In fact, Huska does not have the typical characteristics of a defensive fortress. It is not located on a strategic height, nor near a river or valuable natural resources. On the contrary, it's as if it was built to imprison something inside rather than to repel enemies from the outside. Obviously, such a feature has done nothing but generate legends for centuries. According to the stories told locally, the real reason for the castle's construction lies in a mysterious chasm that was located at the point where Huska was erected. It is said that this fissure in the ground was a gateway to hell, from which demonic creatures and evil spirits emerged to terrorize the inhabitants. So, seen in this light, the construction would have been erected not so much to defend the kingdom of Bohemia, but to seal that hellish fissure. But let's look more closely at the legend itself. The Gate of Hell. As I was saying, according to the legend, the castle was built right above a huge fissure in the ground that no one seemed able to measure. The locals believed that from that place hidden in the depths of the earth, horrible creatures emerged, winged demons, deformed monsters, and other infernal beings. It was said that anyone who got too close to that cursed well would be victim of horrible visions, tormented by an immeasurable sense of terror. To try to understand the nature of this hole and how deep it was, it is said that condemned prisoners were used. It was offered to them a chance of redemption. If they descended into the well and came out alive, they would have earned their freedom. The first prisoner who accepted this proposal was lowered with a rope into it, but a few moments after doing so, he would have started screaming, in the grip of absolute panic. Once pulled out, those present were left speechless. The prisoner had completely lost his mind. His hair, once raven black, was now white, and his eyes, full of terror, stared into the void in front of him. In a matter of days, he lost his life, victim to convulsions and delirious visions of indescribable creatures. Other prisoners suffered the same fate, and many of their stories would spread, fueling fear and mystery around that cursed place. Surely these tales have the flavor of urban legend. This does not detract from the fact that such macabre stories do nothing but fuel the rumors, making Huska Castle one of the most mysterious and unsettling places in Europe. But it doesn't end here. If what has been told so far is not enough to send a shiver down your spine, What you will hear now will truly leave you speechless. During the Second World War, Houska Castle did not escape the attention of one of the darkest forces in recent history, the Nazis, and it is known how much the Nazis were fascinated by the occult and esotericism. It is no coincidence, in fact, that the elite of the Hitler regime, in particular Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, was obsessed with ancient mystical traditions and the supposed arcane forces that were believed to govern the world. The castle seems to have fit into this context because of its reputation as a cursed place, directly linked to infernal energies. Himmler himself was convinced that the roots of Aryan power could be found in ancient occult forces, and that places like Huska could represent access doors to these forgotten powers. According to some testimonies, the castle was indeed occupied by the Nazis during the war years, but not as a strategic fortress or military base. The interest it aroused was of a very different kind. The rumors circulating at that time suggested that the Nazis were there to conduct experiments, but not of a scientific nature as one might think. There was talk of esoteric rituals, attempts to evoke supernatural entities, and exploiting the dark energies that were said to circulate among the ancient walls of the castle. Let's not forget that according to legend, Oscar was built to seal a passage to hell itself. For the Nazis, always in search of symbols and otherworldly powers, a place like this could represent an extraordinary resource. Historians have often debated the real extent of this activity. Some believe that the Nazi presence at the castle was actually related to research on the occult, inspired by the so-called Ahnenerbe, a pseudoscientific society created by Himmler to investigate ancient Aryan traditions and other esoteric phenomena. It is known that this organization ventured into numerous historical places throughout Europe in search of relics, artifacts, mystical facts, and ancient knowledge, which were thought to confer extraordinary power to the regime. Other theories suggest that the castle was used for secret experiments on war prisoners, but it should be emphasized that there is no definitive evidence to support these claims. In any case, it is clear that Houska Castle played an ambiguous role during those dark years. The aura of mystery that surrounded it did nothing but increase the interest of the Nazis, fueling legends and speculations that still persist today. Beyond tangible evidence, the mere presence of the SS in a place as dark as Houska contributes to strengthening the myth of the castle as a receptacle of sinister energies. Even after the war, it continued to be shrouded in disturbing stories, fueled by the collective imagination, and some of these stories are truly chilling. Huska today. As expected, in recent years, the Castle of Houska has become a sought-after destination, not only for history enthusiasts, but also for those seeking strong emotions, especially ghost hunters. The mystery that surrounds it seems to continue and influence anyone who approaches its walls, with numerous accounts of sightings and unexplainable phenomena that fuel the legend of the Hell's Gate. Among the most recent testimonies are the stories of visitors who, while exploring the interior rooms and the courtyard of the castle, claim to have seen strange shadows that moved on their own, often accompanied by a sense of oppression, as if an invisible presence was watching them. In a recent interview, an English tourist stated the following: "While I was taking pictures in the main chapel of the castle, I clearly saw a dark figure approaching the spot where I was standing. At first I thought it was just my imagination, but upon reviewing the pictures I had just taken, I noticed strange streaks of light in each of them that cannot be rationally explained. They weren't reflections, and they certainly couldn't be defects in the photographs, since I had taken them with a cell phone. And then there are the voices. Over the years, several people have reported hearing whispers coming from distant points or even very close to them when they were alone in the castle. A famous group of German ghost hunters, armed with sophisticated equipment, have recorded various psychophonies and indecipherable noises in the castle's basement, where it is said that dark rituals once took place. Their recordings also include sounds similar to muffled screams and bangs, as if someone or something was desperately trying to escape from those walls. Jan Novak, a guide who has worked for over 20 years in Huska Castle, stated in an interview, "One night, while conducting a night tour, I clearly heard footsteps following me and the group I was accompanying. Each of us turned around several times in the direction of the noise to see if there was anyone else on the spot, perhaps one of the guards, but nothing. At that point in the castle, it was just us. On another occasion in the outer quarter, I and some visitors clearly saw a series of deformed figures, similar to men, but with characteristics far from human. I would call them strange creatures. There's no other way to describe them. They would appear, and in a matter of a few seconds, disappear into thin air. In some cases, I was even forced to stop the guided tour because of the panic generated by these visions." The experience of Pavel Zima, another visitor to Huska, is even more disturbing. During a night visit organized for Halloween, I decided to explore the upper floor corridors of the castle on my own. Suddenly, I started to hear sharp knocks against the walls and felt a sudden drop in temperature. Scared to death, I set off to join the rest of the group. But as I walked down the hallway, immersed in the gloom, I saw a figure with bright eyes, like flames, staring intensely at me, only to disappear behind a closed door. I was petrified and unable to take another step. It took several minutes before I could react and catch up with the others. Finally, we cannot ignore the experience of the Ghost Hunters International team, who visited Huska to investigate the mysteries of the castle. During their investigations, one of the team members felt a sharp pain in his back, as if he had been hit by something. After checking with his teammates, they revealed several scratches on his back, some of them very pronounced, as if someone or something had attacked him. That incident was so shocking to the group that it prompted them to immediately leave the place, 100% convinced that something truly evil and terrifying was hiding within its walls. Despite the passing of centuries, stories of paranormal activity in the castle continue to proliferate. Each new tale feeds the legend, making it increasingly difficult to distinguish between reality and myth. So, where can we draw the line between the actual event and fantasy? Skepticism and other theories. Let's start with rational explanations, as always, giving the floor to the skeptics. Many phenomena that seem supernatural can actually be attributed to entirely natural causes. For example, optical illusions can play a key role. The way light penetrates the ancient windows of the castle, especially at sunset or dawn, can create unusual shadows or visual distortions. Some visitors may have interpreted these manifestations as apparitions or spectral figures. This is further compounded by the acoustics of the castle. Old stone walls can amplify and distort noises coming from outside or from adjacent rooms. A creak of wood or a gust of wind through a corridor can easily be perceived as footsteps or mysterious voices, especially at night, when the mind is more prone to suggestion. The effect of mass hysteria should not be forgotten either. The power of the stories surrounding Huska, passed down from generation to generation, has a significant impact. If a person enters the castle already knowing about its dark legends, they are more likely to interpret any unusual experience, a sudden noise, a feeling of cold, as a supernatural event. In psychology, this phenomenon is known as selective perception. That is the tendency to notice what one is already predisposed to see or hear. In a place already shrouded in an aura of mystery, it's easy for the mind to play nasty tricks. But beyond rational explanations, there is a long tradition of esoteric interpretation surrounding Huska Castle. Among the most fascinating is the idea that it's not just a castle, but a point of intersection between different worlds. Some believe that the underlying chasm represents a portal to other dimensions. According to this theory, the castle was built not so much to be inhabited or defended, but as a sort of plug to prevent dark forces from escaping and invading our world. In this context, the strange creatures seen by the inhabitants in the past, described as monstrous hybrids, would be nothing more than entities coming from these alternative dimensions. Another esoteric theory links Huska to a concept of an energy portal. In many esoteric cultures, it is believed that certain places on Earth are convergence points of cosmic or telluric energies. These points, called energy vortexes, would be capable of influencing the surrounding world in mysterious ways. Houska could be one of these places, a hub of subtle energies that create paranormal phenomena or that allow, at certain times, an interaction between our world and others. In reality, these theories are not isolated. There are, in fact, other European legends that speak of infernal portals. A famous example is the Hell's Well of Turkmenistan, a crater that has burned incessantly for decades, seen by many as a door to the underworld. Similar legends also exist in Italy, like the one linked to Lake Avernus, considered by the Romans an entrance to the underworld. These stories recur in various cultures, as if to suggest that the idea of portals to the afterlife is part of an ancient, universal human fear of the unknown. In the end, whether one chooses to believe in rational explanations or prefers the allure of esoteric theories, Huska's castle remains one of the most mysterious and intriguing places in the world. Its stories of portals and creatures only serve to enrich its aura of mystery, leaving us with the choice of which interpretation to embrace. But what do you think of Huska Castle? Are they all legends or stories that hide a grain of truth? Let me know in a comment. The Unexplainable is a series conceived, written, and hosted by Luca Perella. YouTube or on all music and podcast platforms.